I'll go over to the next slide now.
Yeah, so
Wow.
the next slide is taking a different product and a slightly different approach. And the problem that we were trying to deal with this was we have, like any bank, we have a lot of cash intensive businesses that have a lot of cash transactions, either cash deposits or cash shipments or withdrawals. And rather than looking at them in the pixel approach, we wanted to do a heat map approach. And so I've done this at least two large banks, JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, and we use the same techniques, which was you download all of your cash activity. And it's very scalable because, if two large banks like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo can do it, I'm pretty sure any bank in the world can do it. And it really doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes some effort to be able to figure out the right fields to pull and to make sure that you're getting the right results and you don't have some impurities in the data. But once you do that, it's pretty easy to format. And then what you do is you try to cluster them by business sector. And I could do a whole thing on how you cluster it by business sector. But once you do that, then what you do is you say, okay, I want to see for that business sector how the per transaction, per location size of the transactions falls per decile. And so it's your top, your highest 10% would be the first decile, uh, or the highest decile. Then the 80 to 90% would be your next decile. And you go all the way down to your smallest or lowest decile. And you just say for that particular business sector, what is the median transaction size I have? And so when you're looking at this, you'll see things like food services, uh, um, maybe non-store retail, like an Amazon or something like that.
Right.
Uh, maybe consumer financial tend to be pretty high volume but low value transactions. And certainly, we're talking about cash, which is why you wouldn't have a lot of cash transactions for someone like Amazon. And you can see from the color coding that on the bottom one, it's mostly green. And I'm not going to get too concerned about it because it's not worth it for a money launderer to be laundering at those low amounts. It just doesn't pay. What I am more concerned about are those ones that, I'm in the red or the orange or the yellow or maybe the blue, and I'll spend some time, looking at those customers. Um, and once again, I'm doing a one-time review of those customers. I'm putting them in a reference table, making an assessment. I have to refresh my assessment of the reference table every once in a while, but I don't have to do it every time. And, once you get comfortable with them, you're spending much more time every time you run this on the outliers. And, you can end up doing this for a very, very large bank in less than a day. So
Right.
it's very much sustainable and you can replicate it. It takes some time with the design, particularly on the purity of the data and stuff and organizing your frameworks. But once you get that done, you can do it over and over and it's very, very actionable. Now, that's not to say that you don't come up with problems. Every single bank, every time it runs this, hopefully should find some potential money launderers, because they're getting new money launderers or maybe an existing business drifts into money laundering. But you're spending much more time looking at the ones that are the outliers as opposed to looking at the ones that are the benign.
Right. Right. Very important.